Hi, Mike.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Mike. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Hey, Dave.
Yes.
There's a story. There's some interesting stories there that you've got. I've been noticing the rise of anti-Semitism. I've been noticing the rise of anti-Islamophobic comments out there in the world. So we'll get to them later on. Both of them.
Yes, that's just as a before that, I'll just say that before COVID, before these wars and stuff, there was a huge rise in anti-Islamophobia. There was a lot of Islamophobia, anti-Islam stuff.
Yeah.
Some of which was perpetuated by Trump, who put a ban on Muslims coming into the country and all that other stuff. But I think it was really harmful. But now we find that we're competing. How much is more, anti-Semitism or Islamophobia? Anyway, we'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. All right. Okay. So welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. And okay, so a local story we didn't get to yesterday. Air search and rescue guys are actually they focus on a former Air Canada flyer who, after a 38-year career, basically decided he wasn't going to be sitting around twiddling his thumbs in his local armchair. He'd be wanting to do something, so he went out and volunteered for Civil Aviation Search and Rescue Association Niagara, right? And volunteering as a pilot on searches for missing people, down planes, and other critical searches.
Yes, I think I think the reason why I started reading it and I thought, is this something we'd like to talk about on the show? Yeah. Then I saw that it was written by Paul Forsyth, our buddy from Niagara this week, who was the local reporter that covered local events and did it so well here in Niagara. And he had what?
I haven't seen articles. Oh yeah, CBC. That's why. Yeah.
So now he's working for CBC and covering this area, and this is not the first article I've read by him, but he still has that same journalistic expertise that he had when he was down here. I'm glad he got a job with the CBC. I'm very, very glad because there's a guy that covered, like, the review doesn't cover local events anymore anywhere near that. What happened was he lost it when they did some cutbacks. He lost his job to somebody that was about 3 weeks more seniority than him. And the guy lives in Hamilton, and you can't get a hold of him. If you want public events covered or anything, you can't get a hold of him. If you phone the review, they send you off to him. You send messages, you phone, You can't get anything. The guy is too old and too tired to come down here. So he'll put a few plugs in here and there. And so you get very uninteresting stories. Nothing like Paul did. But anyway, Paul is here now covering us for CBC. So I'm glad he is. And if you want to offer him anything, his email is there, paul.forsyth@cbc.com.
Okay, there you go. Is it actually published in here?
Yeah, it is, right at the end of the article.
Right at the end of the article, I'll actually, cbc.ca actually, but still.
.ca, yeah. Sorry, I was just going to check to see if
I will add it. Yeah.
So Paul,
I will add it as a comment
at cbc.ca. Yeah. So he's always very open to anything. So if you got something going, he might be the guy.
Yeah. So there we go. Paul Forsyth at cbc.ca.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So just it's always, if you've got anything that needs to be covered locally, Paul's actually was a good guy doing it. I don't know whether you'll get any check signatures, pictures again, because that might be the negative side of this, right?
I don't know. There's any. I don't know what you mean by negative side.
Well, he might not be able to come down for doing your check pictures, that sort of thing.
Oh, he lives here in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, no, sorry, that wasn't the. Because he's now with the CBC, you might not get check pictures that you used to do from years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh no, he wouldn't. He's covering bigger stuff. And like, here's a question. Paul Forsyth is now working for the CBC. He is a reporter and he covers this area, Niagara region, and so on. So, and he'll come up with stories that are of interest down here. I think CBC is long overdue for getting a reporter down here to cover this area. Anyway, he is now with the CBC, but he still lives in town, as far as I know. I think he still lives within.
I wasn't meaning to imply he didn't. Sorry, I was not meaning to imply he didn't at all. Right?
Yeah, he lives within a stone's throw of my brother.
Yeah.
My brother talks to him when he's walking his dog. So
yeah. All right.
I don't know if he's moved or anything, but he lived there for many, many years, and I doubt that he would move now either. They say here that he's out of St. Catharines, but actually he lives in Niagara Falls, or did, as far as I know. I don't think he ever moved.
Probably out of St. Catharines. He probably has a small office there.
CBC may have.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There. Yeah. Okay. And he probably works from home anyway most of the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. So in terms of the what was the group called? In terms of where we started with this, which was Civil Air Search and Rescue Association Niagara, they basically have several Cessna planes, and they have about 30 odd people that fly sorties for them when they're doing air search and rescue. Essentially, the idea of the plane is send it up there. You can see things from the sky that you can't necessarily see from the land. And once spotted, you can direct people to it.
Yes.
Bring helicopters in, rescue helicopters in, right?
So I would say that, this is retired people, and basically when you have a problem and you have somebody lost, they say a little child lost somewhere in the woods, or somebody has a plane and it's crashed and they can't find it, or they're looking for a boater that's lost out in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a whole lot of resources. We have some, but not a lot. So if you put out a lot of volunteers that are trained pilots, and then they can go out and now look and do a lot of that legwork for the police, you can find who you need to find quicker and faster. So this is a job in which these guys can do that feels like they're supporting the community, and yet they're not being paid.
Yeah,
they may get some compensation for fuel or something. I'm not so sure. It doesn't say so.
It doesn't say so. No, I agree, but it is run by, it's run by a public body. So I would imagine there would be fuel funding in there, because these are publicly owned aircraft, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're not private aircraft.
No,
and they look like a private aircraft, but they're publicly owned.
So anyway, it was just a very interesting article on a little bit of a human interest story about people going around in airplanes and sort of giving of their time, and it mentions some people here that do that. I just thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And plus, mostly because it was Paul Forsyth.
Well, actually, a story like this is an important part of our local area, and it's good that you've got to get people up there. There are situations you've got to get people up there, right? It's an important point.
Yes. Yeah. And So anyway, so that's.
And
that was interesting. And that's
The
what's
other, the
happening.
other thing to note about this is the chapter of search and rescue is actually holding an open house at the Niagara-on-the-Lake Airport this Thursday, April 30th at 6:30 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. to allow the public to see the equipment such as the planes, talk to the pilots, etc.
Yeah.
There you go. So if you're interested in that, go along.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We've got 2 comments. Good morning.
Good morning. Good Monty.
True hero, says Mike. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Absolutely. All right. Moving on. One more, okay. So Dakota German Shepherd was found tightly muzzled in Niagara Falls sidewalk, and the owner was found guilty of causing their death. This was absolutely disgusting. If Angela were here, she'd say, hang them high. They death penalty for killing an animal.
Well, this here is evidence to me how ignorant people are. Look, I'll say this right now. Do not get a dog or a pet unless you are very prepared to understand how they work and how pets are. Pets are like children. You have to devote a lot of time to them. And you cannot take shortcuts. In this particular case, this dog died because the muzzle was so tight around its face, its snout, that it could not open its mouth. Dogs need to have their mouth open because they regulate their temperature through their saliva and their tongue. That's mostly how they regulate their temperature. This dog's muzzle was tied so tight, and that was in this person put the muzzle on there so tight so the dog wouldn't bark. Well, dogs bark. And if you're going to get a dog, it's going to bark. And a shepherd is one of those barking dogs. They will bark all the time. I know we had one, and my neighbor had one. He had to actually give his dog away because the dog barked and barked and barked and barked, not stop barking. It was a German Shepherd. But in an attempt to have this dog not bark, they put a muzzle on the dog that was so tight that the dog couldn't open its mouth. The dog then kind of, I think, probably just got so frustrated. It pulled its it was tied to a post, and it got that post out of the ground somehow or whatever it is, and it's running around trying to get relief, and it finally just falls dead. Now the person, Carly Young, who owns the dog, is being charged. Now she comes across as someone that's extremely ignorant, and I love the dog, my husband loved the dog, we love the dog. If you love the dog, why did you put the muzzle on it so tight?
Muzzle, and exactly what you were saying, probably the tightness of the muzzle almost certainly caused the death because, as you say, they regulate, to a non-dog person, it seems sloppy, but the opening of the mouth and allowing the tongue out is an important factor. They get there, they can drink water through that way, but they also release water through that way as well.
That is their means by which they govern their temperature.
Exactly.
Through panting.
Yeah.
They don't sweat like we do. They govern their temperature through their mouth. Now, these people had them tied up with the muzzle on. Normally, you put the muzzle on if you're going for a walk and you're worried about your dog nipping somebody. But they used this muzzle to clamp down on the snout so the dog couldn't bark. They're not getting a whole lot of sympathy here from the justice. They are being charged, and the province does not, the provincial, the judge does not buy her story. Young had pleaded not guilty and a trial was held over multiple days in the provincial offensive courts. This, of course, cost the taxpayer a lot of money too. Here's a now to me, she's just completely ignorant and should never have had a dog anyway. And that is my caution here. If you know anybody that wants a dog, you got to tell them a dog takes time.
Yeah,
people get frustrated, and people begin to beat their dogs because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they get frustrated and they become cruel to them. The people who not normally be cruel find that their dog, they kind of think their dog or their cat's not doing what they're supposed to do on purpose. They're being, that kind of thing.
Yep.
It's an animal. It's a dumb animal. You got to train it. You got to put time. During COVID, there was all kinds of people got all kinds of pets and then abandoned them out because they couldn't handle them. They just took them someplace and abandoned them.
Yeah.
So look, if you do not know the time commitments that are required by a dog, don't get one. Don't get any kind of pet. There are times you need to take that dog out. You need to take it for a run. You need to have exercise the dog. It has to have water. It has to this. If it's a barking dog, if it barks and barks and barks, then you're going to have to get a different dog if you can't handle that barking. You'll just have to sell the dog to someone else.
Yeah. Well, in fact, actually, dogs and barking. One reason, of course, a dog barks is because somebody has entered their field of scent, their sensing field, and that person is unfamiliar to them. It might well be a neighbor, returning home from work and entering their house, but then the dog kind of barks because that neighbor's arriving. But again, generally most neighbors accept that hey, there was a dog across the road from my street. Every time I arrived, he barked at me, right? I don't know, but it was.
That's not the kind of barking they're worried about.
Yeah.
That's not the type of barking I'm talking about. That's what a normal dog does. It barks.
Exactly.
But some dogs bark incessantly. They bark and bark and bark.
They do. I know. Yeah.
And if you've ever been around a dog that barks and barks and barks, just barks and barks. Like I said, a neighbor of mine, a good man. He got a German Shepherd for him and his kids and everything. The thing is, though, put him in the backyard, and all it did 24/7 was bark. It barked. Didn't like to be alone, I guess. I don't know what it was. But finally, it wasn't bothering me so much because I was farther down the road. But the local neighbor says, you got to do something about that dog. It just barks constantly. And he had to give it away.
Yeah. In fact, you can call the SPCA, or you can call the local bylaw if there's a dog barking in your neighborhood. But I'd suggest you take a bit of care and attention first. As you say, talk to the person who owns the dog.
Then some dogs are just ignored. Like I remember in my old neighborhood, there was one dog that would head up 24/7. It was tied to a tether, and there was a path all the way around it that was the length of the tether. It would run and run and run around. That's the only thing it can do, back and forth to get some exercise. And it wore a path in a perfect circle around the place where it was tethered.
Yeah.
And I never saw anyone attend to that dog. It was stuck there all the time because people get a dog and then they don't know what to do with it. So they leave it outside or something. Now, this dog didn't particularly bark at all, but other ones do if they're left alone, and they bark and bark and bark.
Well, dogs are social animals, right? Which, when they become part of a human family, that social involves the human family, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the dog. So my advice, of course, is just right back to where I began. And do not get a dog if you do not have the time to train it. Check out the type of dog too. You want to look at the type of dog, the breed, and how well does it behave. Some dogs are supposed to be outside. You get some dogs that are guard dogs that want to be outside and looking for wolves and coyotes and stuff like that. You put them inside, they got nothing to do. A lot of people like to get the sheep dogs, the different kinds of different types of collies and sheep dogs. Well, guess what? They are made to run. They want to run.
Yeah.
They want to work.
Yeah.
If you keep them inside, you're killing them.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember this next comment. Go look at this next comment.
Are you talking about Trump? Now, there's a guy that should be tethered.
Yeah, generally speaking, I think tethering of dogs is not something, tethering of a dog is a temporary thing. You need to tie him down just to keep control of him for a little while. But tethering of a dog shouldn't be something you do longer term.
I used to put I had a backyard, but there was lots of places for my dog to sneak out of there. So I put it, I had a clothesline that went from one corner of the house all the way to the end of the thing. So I clip her line on the clothesline, so she could go all the way down and all the way back up, and the leash would never get tangled in anything, so she could run back and forth and all over. But that was just to keep her outside. But she needed a lot of care. I needed to exercise that dog every day a lot. It was half shepherd and half lab, and that dog was inexhaustible. Yeah. Especially for the first 2 years of her life, you couldn't run her enough. And I put it to the test one time, see if I could get her tired. I threw the ball to her. I went to the park. I had it all planned out. I threw the ball to her 300 times, and I couldn't make her tired.
You were tired, but she wasn't.
Over and over and over again. I mean, my arm was getting pretty sore, so lots of it was just long underhand tosses. But I couldn't tire her out.
Yeah. So you got tired, but she didn't.
Oh, my arm just about fell off.
Yeah. So when you got home, you were within 10 seconds, Dave's lying out.
What I had to do is I had to go to where there's a place where it was a high hill. So I throw her in a car, and I go to a place where there was a high area, and I could throw the ball down, and then she'd have to run all the way down and then come all the way up a steep hill. and I would do that to try to tire her out. And that kind of worked. As she grew older, I needed to do that less though. She was a little, but she still, the ball was the thing she was addicted to the ball.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I think everybody here has agreed that mistreating dogs is a bad thing to do. I think there's not a single person here who would disagree with that statement, right?
No.
Okay. Moving on. Niagara supportive housing. Come on. I don't know what's going on here. I've lost control. Okay. Niagara Supportive Housing Strategy and its 2026 implementation plan to create 945 homes over the next 10 years. They've got a 49-unit bridge housing construction that's underway right now. And there's an additional 86 units in development that are expected to be completed in the next couple of years. And as I said, they've got 945 new supportive housing units is the implementation plan over the next 10 years.
I noticed that they're okay with the term homeless again. It used to be unhoused. It was all kinds of. I remember I interviewed somebody from the Bethlehem. I couldn't use homeless. You wouldn't allow it. We had to call them temporarily unhoused or temporarily something like this. She had a term for it. Mm-hmm. She would. When I used to say homeless, they're not homeless, right? They're temporarily unhoused or something like. There was a term. But I noticed that homeless is just creeping back into the lexicon again.
Yeah.
It is not seen to be a. Remember, there's lots of PC stuff that has gone by the wayside now, politically correct, the
Yeah.
terminology. These are homeless people, so not temporarily homeless, like they are homeless at the moment. So homelessness services manager Brendan Nicholson said the plan, in response to Niagara Regional Council motion last September, is designated to reduce homelessness by developing supportive housing units as quickly as possible while balancing taxpayer affordability.
Yeah.
Right now, we know shelters, emergency departments, and justice systems are being strained to provide expensive services to respond to those people experience homelessness who there's that homelessness who need supports. So what he's saying is it's very expensive and are supportive, and by building 495 supportive homes of some will reduce the amount spent. I'm not so sure. Isn't don't we have Ken Todd? Ken Todd is going to come with he was supposed to have produced a report on how the city will respond.
Yeah, it's a very.
We reported on that last week, I think, and he hasn't. It's delayed because all the data is not in.
Yeah. But also exactly that, and it's interesting that we get this over time, and I'm not entirely sure. Where if they know what if the left hand knows what the right hand's doing.
Yes, I noticed we had a meeting. Our Kiwanis nonprofit housing had a meeting. Directors, I'm one of the directors, and we had a meeting, and it was we were wondering which way to go now with our housing. We have been tied in with the region. We don't know if we should continue with the region or go on our own. There's pluses and minuses of both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the pluses for not going with the region is we can pick our own tenants. Every once in a while, we get these terrible tenants, and we found in years past that they get a terrible tenant that wrecks the place, and the region slides them into another place without warning that housing development of how bad that person is.
Yeah.
They just try to dodge and weave. They got to do something with them, so they slide them somewhere else so they can wreck somebody else's place.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that. They don't know what to do with them. But so if you got a really bad tenant and whatever and wrecks your place, we've had one. We finally got rid of them. They had 5 or 6 people in the apartment. They just they get in there, and then the place was full of cockroaches, and you can imagine the state because they were all drug users, and so you could just imagine the state of the apartment when we had to clean it up. It took a huge amount of resources to clean it up, kill the cockroaches. And
the other thing to note about this report, by the way, is it's talking about 2 places here. One of these is in 320 Geneva Street, which is a 49-unit bridge housing, and the other one is at Heart Hub, which is on Queenston Street, Queenston Street in St. Catharines. But Heart Hub is also trying to do some other developments.
Like what?
Yeah, actually, that's Queenston Street. Yeah, okay. No, I'm misspeaking. That my thing went blip. It was funny. Went funny on me. Sorry. No, I haven't got that. No, Heart Hub is on Queenston Street in St. Catharines. So my concern is, are we looking at something different here? Because we're looking at 2, they're talking about 2 areas, one in Geneva, one in St. Catharines, not necessarily talking about a Niagara-wide thing, but where they're commenting under a Niagara-wide guise about St. Catharines alone, not about what's going on in the falls.
Well, George Morocco said here, Niagara also needs highly supportive housing for people with complex needs, adding there's no place for people with severe chronic mental health and drug addiction. That tells me money, 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 doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Money, money, money. Now, this is supposed to reduce the amount of money. Right now, we use a lot of expensive means by which to control the homeless population. And I'm using those words like somewhat facetiously, because controlling people is like controlling animals or slaves or something like that. They aren't. Like, there are real people, but they seem to be, as she says here, mental health and chronic mental health and drug addiction. So how do you treat that?
yeah,
How do you treat that without expensive means? If you have a drug addicted person, you're going to have to isolate that person. You're going to have to supervise that person. Drug addicted people with money go into clinics. They go into places where they voluntarily go and get off the drugs over the space of a month or two, like the De Novo program or whatever, like that. And you could do that if you've got money. If you don't have money for the drug addicted homeless person, how do you give them that kind of care that they're going to require?
yeah,
That
yeah,
costs money.
yeah,
How do you, like, the supportive, the highly supportive care? I can't see where it isn't going to cost money. And if it costs money, that's okay. If there's going to be some success in here, we've had all kinds of
yeah. But my point is that,
how do you deal with the
yeah,
homeless people? If you
yeah,
talk to people who in and around areas where the homeless people hang out, they'll tell you frustratingly that they don't want a different life. They don't want a different life. That's the conclusion they have when I talk to people who have to worry about these store owners and stuff like that. They just say these people, they don't want a different life. That's what they want to do. I can't believe that inside their mind somewhere that they want that kind of lifestyle. But it seems that you cannot dissuade them from that too easily, even though
yeah,
maybe in their heart of hearts they do not want that kind of life. They always return to it. So if
yeah,
you're going to try to use these highly supportive housing, how is that going to help? How is it going to reduce the cost of the taxpayer?
yeah.
Not really well
Yeah,
explained.
absolutely. All right. And the point being is that I think there's two things at cross purposes. You're absolutely 100% right about what you said in regards to the Ken Todd initiative, and that is different to what is being discussed here.
Yeah, it's different altogether. So it makes me wonder: should not you be now? Ken Todd's going to come up with some sort of a plan based on the data that he has. Should then he coordinate it with the region?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of goodwill here, but like I said, we've heard about this for, I think, 11 or 12 years. It's being it's no longer the top issue anymore. For a long time, it was a top issue as homelessness was growing, and we had a lot of sympathy for the people. And then we found that there's a complex issue that we can't seem to get our grip around. It's costing us a lot of money. I was driving around the other day, and of course, there's homeless people, and some of them are under the effects of drugs. You could tell they're crouched over, and they're all over the place, and they're big pile of stuff in the shopping cart and so on. And you think to yourself, well, will it end only when you die? Or is there a chance for you to be saved?
Yeah. I was actually wondering much the same thing when I was driving the other week past somewhere in the neck of your place on Thoroldstone, and there was this lady pushing a cart across the street. she's pushing the cart across the street, and then she's going back this way, then she's going back that way, and she's like, she's not sure where she's going. You know, she'd moved 10 foot in that direction, 10 foot in that direction, 10 foot in that direction again, you know, all over the place.
Well, yeah, it's just too much of a common sight, and what are we going to do about it? And this is just one more attempt. 945 highly supportive housing units. I wish them well. I hope it is a solution, but I have my doubts.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to one of the big things of the day. Jewish advocacy group, and I'm going to say this wrong, B'nai B'rith, says anti-Jewish hatred is on the rise in Canada and is being normalized.
And I put that article in there because we've talked about that a number of times.
Yeah.
There is this accusation that or observation that there's a lot more anti-Semitism out there than there was before. If you remember, prior to COVID, there was a lot of alarm because of the huge amount of Islamophobia that was out there.
Yeah,
it seemed like it was rare for a while to hear anything anti-Semitic, and it was most of the concern was due to anti-Islamic rhetoric, anti-Islamophobic rhetoric. Now, when Israel has started beating the crap out of Palestinians and the West Bank thing, the Gaza thing, the disruptions in the Middle East, that kind of thing, they say, the B'nai B'rith says that is sort of precipitated a lot more anti-Semitic rhetoric.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. Unfortunately, they equate any kind of criticism of Israel, of Zionism, as anti-Semitism. Dershowitz, the guy Dershowitz, who was a Democrat, is going over to be a Republican now, claims that anti-Zionism and anti-Israeli rhetoric are covers for anti-Semitism. They paint a narrative where there is nothing you can say about Israel or the IDF or Zionism that is not a cover for anti-Semitism. That is not the truth. And according to this article, it points that out. It points that out where it is the B'nai B'rith is not being entirely honest with its reports. And we know the Anti-Defamation League included anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. That really cuts you off from any kind of critical speak about the Zionist actions in the West Bank and Gaza. If everything anti-Zionism is actually anti-Semitism, there's absolutely nothing you can say to criticize the Jewish state that isn't regarded as anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they said, B'nai B'rith has recorded 6,800 incidents in 2025, which is a 9.3% increase over 2024.
Yeah, and as I said before COVID and everything, you didn't hear a whole lot. There was the odd anti-Semitic comment or here and there, but mostly it was the biggest concern for us was Islamophobia. That was hugely on the rise, particularly after 9/11 and some of the actions of ISIS and so on and so forth. People then incorrectly equate ISIS and Al Qaeda and that with normal Islam. You know what I mean? So it says here, B'nai B'rith says there's 6,219 incidences recorded in 2024. Harassment, vandalism aimed at Jews in Canada. The organization tracked an increase of anti-Semitic acts and so on. But an assault on a Jewish man and so on and so forth, Jewish person harassed, just not a statistic. The person is told, so on and so forth. There are, of course, there's anti-Semitism. It hasn't stopped. I thought it was getting less and less and less. Montreal Pride Festival was barring Jewish groups. I don't think it was anti-Semitism. I think it was wrongly thought to be in support of Palestinians. If you bar Jewish, I don't know why they would think that. Anyway, they're stupid. Yeah. The report says anti-Semitic incidents in Canada, which included gunfire, arson, vandalism, and attacks, is double in number. And of course, the increase is after 9/11 and Israel's response, civilian deaths and violence in the West Bank and everything, and B'nai B'rith, and of course the whole first half of the article is devoted to that. But other groups, including some run by Jewish critics of Israel, say justified criticism of how Israel treats Palestinians and Arabs has been wrongly conflated with anti-Jewish hate. Yeah. Israel ministers have expressed Jewish supremacist ideas, called for actions widely understood as ethnic cleansing. The Israeli parliament has passed a death penalty law, and Ottawa has thought to be dehumanizing. Independent Jewish voices said the report repeatedly blurs the line between legitimate criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism by including incidents of protesters describing Israel as an apartheid state or arguing that it has committed genocide in Gaza. So it is a really flawed report. As a matter of fact, anytime I see any report about anti-Semitism, it includes anti-Zionist or anti-Israeli criticism.
Yeah. The other thing that I've been noting in social media of late has been the Islamic phobic ones. Question which is those people. This was one I've seen in Britain in a British group. Was for those people who support the use of Sharia law in Britain, should they be expelled from the UK? Right. Similar ones have also asked the same question about wearing burqas and the like in the USA. Should that be a reason to get rid of to have a person expelled from the country?
What about funny hats and ringlets that Jewish men wear?
Well, yeah, and I'm not talking about Yeah, absolutely. There's all good questions there, right?
Here, as it says, the Independent Jewish Voices is deeply concerned that B'nai B'rith Canada 2026 audit once again relies on flawed methodology and politicized definitions that distort the reality of anti-Semitism in Canada. The group's national coordinator, Corey Balsam, wrote in a news release. The group says that B'nai B'rith should provide more detail and report on the severity of the incidences and how many left out. Now, yes, of course, we find things are exaggerated, and if you want to get a lot of attention, you exaggerate things. Yeah, I once saw a debate between two Jews on one side, Canadian. I think they were Canadian Jewish folks, and on the other was a Jewish guy and a Muslim guy on the other side. And the debate was: is anti-Semitism the same as anti-Zionism the same as anti-Semitism? I thought it was preposterous. Anti-Semitism has not exactly, it might be equated with Judaism, but it's a political movement, and yet they try to say that if you criticize Islam or Zionism, then you must be an anti-Semite. I thought it was preposterous. Now, the people who were arguing against it won the debate. I think it was a monk debate.
Yeah. Okay, so the other one is that war on Iran is fueling Islamic social media posts, particularly in the US, not just the US, but everywhere. And basically, there was at the very early in this war in Iran, there's a massive increase in the number of posts on X that were Islamophobic.
Well, remember too, like when October 7th, and Yahya Sinwar and his goons went in and did that murdering rage they did. There was a lot of there's a lot of Islamophobia right after that.
But
a lot of people, a lot of Muslims being killed. We heard about the baby being killed by somebody because the person was Muslim. We heard about the 4 Palestinians that were walking down the street and one of them got gunned down. Well, they all got shot at, but one got a bullet lodged in his spine and he's forever paraplegic now. So there was lots of incidences of anti-Islamic stuff like that after the attack of October 7th. Yeah. And now there's a lot of anti-Israeli stuff going on after the bombings and the overreach they've done in Gaza.
Yeah, but again, criticism of Yahya Sinwar and his attack on Israel is not being Islamophobic. That's being criticism of a particular group that happened to be Islamic.
Yeah. I criticize Hamas completely. I think they're a very bad organization. I think their idealism is wrong. But I will say, but if I say that, they'll say yes, that's correct point of view. But if I then go say the Israeli settler movement in the West Bank is brutal and harsh, and then I'm an anti-Semite. You see what I mean? You can't. Yeah. You can't
and the point being is that Yahya Sinwar's involvement in the Hamas invasion of Israel was as wrong as the IDF invasion in Gaza. I think we take the view that both of those were wrong.
Yeah. So what bothers me here, though, is there is a lot of reporting every day. There's more and more of this rising anti-Semitism stuff, and et cetera, more that. Watch out, the society is becoming more and more anti-Semitic. But there is less reporting on the equal rise in anti-Islamic rhetoric and Islamophobia. There is nobody out there to speak for the Muslim community because they, of course, are being victimized as well with Islamophobia as the Jewish community might be victimized by anti-Semitism. We have to worry about. Now, I'm not talking here. There are nuts out there. There are nuts, and let me tell you, traditionally, the person that hated Jews was also the person that hated Muslims. There has been a shift in that, thanks to like Fox or somebody that extols the virtues of Israel to their ignorant viewers. That I found that when I was a worker, I would, among the people I work with were racists and anti-Jews, anti-Muslims, and everything. But there was this change that the Jewish state was on our side by going after Muslims and stuff like that. Real ignorant thinking, what I mean?
Well, one of the things to note, and something that I sent you, is that there's a report on the House of Commons that was written in December of 24. So this was almost one of the last acts of the Trudeau government. Talks about Islamophobia on the rise, taking action, confronting hate, and protecting civil liberties together. This is actually a report of the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights, which is by Lena Metledge Diab, who's the chair of this. And there's a whole heap of recommendations that spring out of this.
Well, the issue here is like what I've said before. There is a government report that says there's a rising tide of Islamophobia, and yet you don't hear it. All you hear about is the rising tide of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody says, "Hey, wait a minute, the Islamic people are getting way too much attention because there's a lot of anti-Islamic phobic stuff being reported. Let's do some more anti-Semitic reports, so that we could still be there. I mean, it's just dumb the way it's all looks, like it's competing victim. Who's most of a victim? The fact is both are, and it's the result of ignorant people. I don't think that anti-Zionism and why is it anti-Zionism too? Like, can you not complain about Zionism without being an anti-Zionist? That is an extreme position. You can, it's like complaining against the Democrats in the United States and saying, "Oh, well, then you're anti-Democrat. You are anti-democratic." No, you might not be. You might just not like some of their policies.
Yeah.
You could be a criticism of the Democratic Party in the United States and still vote for them. And again, as far as all this other stuff too, like anti-Zionism, how about a Zionist critic? How about a Zionist critic? How about that kind of thing? How about an Israeli government critic? How about, are they anti-Zionist or anti-Israeli?
But Zionism is a political movement, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, but Zionism's a political movement, Dave, isn't it?
It's a political movement based in religion, basically.
So
it is a call for
every political
people to have their own homeland.
Yeah, every political movement has, by right, critics of it. So you could be Jewish and be anti-Zionist.
Look, you could equate we're Nazis by being anti-Nazi. Would you be anti-German?
No.
There's an extreme example there.
Yeah.
If you were anti-communist, if you were anti-Stalinist, would you be anti-Russian?
No. Yeah, exactly. See? Yeah. Exactly. And those are two prime examples. And you see, being opposed to what Netanyahu is doing in Israel doesn't mean that you're anti-Israeli. It means you're opposed to Netanyahu's policies.
Yeah, well, they don't. The problem that, and I, in some degree, I agree with them, because the anti-Semite within us will find any reason to be an anti-Semite. But the tried and true anti-Semite is the same person that's the Islamophobic. They're trying to equate the new type of anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism and anti-Israel. They feel that this is a cover for like this anti-Zionist movement, that kind of thing. I don't think so. I'm very much critical of how Israel's conducted itself in the West Bank, particularly Gaza.
Yeah,
all of that, and I'm highly critical of their power in the United States. I mean, they have a incredible political power.
And what Rick says here is absolutely true, right? That the media is causing hate.
Yeah, but they don't balance it. Like you see this, it's almost assumed that everybody yells, "Oh, there's more and more anti-Semitism out there," and all of a sudden the media picks up on that and says, "Well, we know there's more and more anti-Semitism," but they don't prove it. They don't examine each one of those incidences and how it measures up. I mean, if a synagogue or something gets attacked and people get killed, yeah, you might think that's an anti-Semitic. Yeah, that would be definitely an anti-Semitic. What about a church, though? the Israelis are bombing and breaking down churches in southern Lebanon. Is that anti-Christian? Is that what they're doing? Is that they're anti-Christian, aren't they? You saw a picture of an Israeli soldier smashing a statue of Jesus with a sledgehammer. They must be anti-Christian, shouldn't they be? The Israeli state, the idea for anti-Christian because they mowing down churches. You see, it doesn't really equate, does it? It's too much of a stretch to say that. And I think the same thing is happening with anti-Semitism. There are real dyed-in-the-wool anti-Semites, but I could tell you, any anti-Semitic comic I ever heard was usually the same person spouts off hate about everybody, blacks, Muslims, whoever else.
One of the things that is certainly true is that there's been a surge of posting on social media, which has been anti-Muslim since the beginning of the Iran war. That said, though, hey, I've seen also that we've also got to say that we've seen the surge on people playing those Iranian propaganda videos, dropping the bomb into the oil can and giving it to Trump. There's and I have to say that the Iranians should be applauded for their absolutely superb propaganda videos.
Yeah, well, they of course they're trying
sticking it to Trump like nobody is sticking it to Trump.
and he's affected for sure. But the fact is that the Iranians have had a lot of anti-American, anti-Israel rhetoric. They're anti-American, death to the great Satan, that kind of thing. Does that mean they're anti-American, right? Are they anti-Anglo? I will tell you this, though, having lived in Libya and watched demonstrations, so-called demonstrations, they're all staged by the government, right? There's very few of the people in those demonstrations that actually believe the rhetoric they're spouting off.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it just takes it takes a you have to be very careful how you read things. And the benign breath report here is typical of hyperbole. It's an exaggeration of things that are happening. The victim narrative comes out big time here. Watch out, they're coming for us again. This Nazis all over again.
But again, the same is true when you're talking about the National Council for Canadian Muslims.
Well, do they go out and exaggerate the amount of anti-Islamophobia? Is that what they do too?
I was looking at some of their reports and actually wondering about that, and I didn't put them out because of the source. I wasn't sure we could trust the source. I didn't give them to you because of that.
So is this a competing narrative of victims? Like the Muslims say we're more victims than the Jews, and the Jews say we're more victims than the Muslims. There's more anti-Semitism than there is Islamophobia, and the Islamophobics say the other side says that. I don't know. Yeah, so that's up to us. That's why it's up to us. When we read a benign breath report, and then we find the independent voices of Jewish voices, IJV, I think independent Jewish voices, they're the ones that scan it and see it for what it is.
Yeah.
That it's hyperbole and it's exaggeration and that. But let me also put out there that Islamophobia and anti-Semitism lives in our society.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism comes from European Christendom. It's been ironed into us for many, many years. So there's always this undercurrent of anti-Semitism somewhere in our society. I was lucky. I've never really met anyone that dislikes Jews or blacks or anything like that. But there are out there, and they pass down that they pass down that hatred generation to generation, it seems. So it's out there. So those people who hate Muslims and those people who hate Jews, they're out there, and quite often they're the same person, and they're all quite often the same person that hates blacks.
I will agree with that, because I've been looking at some of the people who have been spouting off some of this stuff. And yes, you're right. It's often the same person. You look at if you unfold their social media profile, you realize that they're putting spouting anti-Islamic rhetoric in one group and anti-Jewish rhetoric in another group.
Yeah, it's there. It is there, and you have to be very careful, because it's a traditional kind of thing in European Christendom, and it sits there. And if you go to Eastern Europe, that's just being released from communism in the last generation, you'll find an undercurrent of anti-Semitism that still exists there, the old-fashioned kind. And you'll find, of course, they hate Muslims like crazy too. They kind of equate them pretty much as the same thing as this Semitic disease, the Arab disease, whatever.
Remember, that is the part of
them. It's being taught to them generation after generation. So it's there.
Remember, that is the part of Europe. There was part of Europe that was invaded by Islamic invaders during has been invaded by the Islamic invaders during the last 1,000 years.
Anyway, they just dislike them. They particularly dislike Jews. They have that. They dislike. But let me put this very clear too, that the Orthodox Christians hate the Roman Catholic Church. So you'll have two Slavic groups. You'll have the Poles, who are Roman Catholic, and then you'll have the Lithuanians, who are Orthodox. They might hate each other just because one's Orthodox and one's Lithuanian. They're Orthodox. The Poles are Catholic. They'll hate each other, right? The Serbs and the Croats. Yeah. One's Orthodox, one's, if you check their DNA, you couldn't tell the difference between them. Yeah. And yet one's a Catholic and one's a Orthodox, and they hate each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the hate thing is the irrational hate. And that usually encompasses Islamophobia and anti-Semitism as irrational hate, a kind of xenophobia that sticks with us. Anyway, we're near the end. We are at the end, and I'd just like to quickly talk about Gaza again. There are people still being bombed there. The Palestinian Authority is trying to get some kind of grip of what's going on over there. Those people are still being bombed and killed. Anyone who says the peace president has done anything good about Gaza, he may have stopped the bombs blowing off, but I think that's mostly because of the pressure of other countries on the U.S. to put some pressure on Israel to stop the murder fest they're going through.
All right.
That may be termed as anti-Semitic. I don't think so.
All right.
What are they teaching in school? Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a big question. What are they teaching in school? All right. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Have a good day and pray for peace.
Yeah. And for anybody who's watching today, Spin League is tonight at 6 p.m. Thank you. Bye.